threw a huge rock, hit the car, put a huge dent in the front, or the passenger front fender and part of the door. It was my wife's brand new car. She was nice enough to let me drive. I have to come home and tell my wife, hey, I'm sorry about the car, but a Bigfoot did this. You know what my wife told me? She goes, I know you don't drink. I know you don't smoke, but what were you smoking? I tell you, I know what a Bigfoot looks like. I know what it smells like. I know it was not giving off any orbs. It wasn't friendly.
Yeah, they call it skunk ape in parts of the country because it smells like a skunk, or
even worse. It worse than because seriously, this was early June, so there was still snow up in the Canadian Rockies everywhere. It was so pungent, it hurt my throat to breathe. It burned my lungs. That's how pungent it was.
I do know a woman from here in Parkersburg.
Don't get mad. I'm going to have to put you on break.
Okay.
We're going to put you on hold. We're going to have to do a commercial here, so I'm going to put you on hold.
Right.
Okay, we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Não perde tempo escolhendo uma roupa, porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, desde que eu dou burrão. Tá descontrolada toda essa cara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Colarinha dos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Rafa Gomes, digam no beat. Não perde tempo escolhendo a roupa, porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, que eu dou burrão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Voar em altos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço.
You are all
Everybody's voting for the friendly voice of radio, the people's choice. Music, weather, sports, and news, it's radio. The people choose. Everybody's swinging to the swinging voice of radio, the people's choice. Big fry, small fry, dawn to dawn, it's radio that turns them on.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Boy, we got to do something about that thunder. We're interviewing tonight Susan Sheppard. Hey, Susan, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah,
the aliens have not abducted me.
Well, you never know nowadays. I'll tell you, I get all these people, claiming that they have been abducted. I've had a couple of them, like Timothy Cullen, that actually had their implants removed from the doctor, late Dr. Roger Lear. That kind of scares me because something is going on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way that you do. I think we're in for some an increase in sightings of these types of creatures that are not of this world. I mean, it's hard. It's funny when most of the witnesses, when they were describing the Mothman, they described him as a flesh and blood, but they also described his eyes as looking like red electrical lights. So that's a mystery as well. But it seems like we're definitely ripe for some new experiences. Sightings of UFOs and visitations. I hope they stay away from me. I just kind of want to focus on the ghosts and hauntings for now, but that's quite enough.
Oh yeah, that would give you even more to have to deal with, wouldn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah. I didn't even really look into it much. I have friends that are very involved with the world of UFOs and aliens and things. But I never followed up on it though.
Well,
of course, I did come into the Entered Cold tapes from 1966. So yeah, that's a real important story on the ghost tour as well. They just kind of fell into my lap, and they're now in the Mothman Museum in Point Pleasant. They're really the only real artifact other than the written descriptions by the witnesses of the Mothman that they really have down there. They've got lots of props from the movie. They were donated props from the Mothman Prophecies movie. But as far as any real evidence or any actual thing from that time period, those old audio tapes are really about the only thing they have from that time period. I mean, it's a wonderful museum. They did a great job on it, but I think I would have maybe removed the car door, supposedly that the Mothman scratched, but I don't know, and kept that for the future.
I don't know. Do you believe that all these people are seeing like Mothman and other cryptids going around? It seems like it's been on the increase in the last year. Like, it's totally crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that too. And it's very hard to know because of all the TV shows and things that are on, about it. Mothman is definitely a very popular subject matter, and we have another one, Flatwoods Monster, in the eastern part of West Virginia, and they have a Flatwoods convention, but it doesn't seem to have caught on as much as the Mothman. It hasn't captured people's imaginations in quite the same way. So probably because there was only 2 witnesses to that, and to Mothman they had dozens of witnesses. But it's always hard to know. Whenever I'm at the Mothman Festival, people will come by and they'll tell me their experiences. One lady, every year, but she's also a little bit inebriated, so I never know whether to believe it or not. But and a lot of those original witnesses are dying off too. There isn't very many left.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any left.
Yeah, that's true. How about Thunderbird in your area? Because that's another thing. I'm getting reports on Thunderbirds. And I'm not talking about the car that was made by Ford. I'm talking about these huge birds.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. A lot of people, John Keel was one of them that associated the legend of the Thunderbird with the Mothman, and that kind of makes sense when you think a lot of the witnesses have Native American ancestry from that time period. But then in the state, I know about 2 people who witnessed a large bird, and it made a shrieking sound. It was enormous. They said looked something like basically a pterodactyl or one of those dinosaur birds, and there's 2 sightings of those in West Virginia. But I've never seen that, thank goodness. But could be.
Well, maybe other people have, and maybe they were, swept away.
Yeah. Well, they said it just, it didn't have feathers; it just had skin, and they saw it go, and it made a horrible sound. That was the most thing that they could remember. But since I haven't experienced that myself, I don't really have much to add to it. But the Thunderbird, it may be. I mean, it may be, and that kind of appears all over the world.
I know it's crazy. I was watching a thing on one of the History channels, or the History Channel here about 3 weeks ago about Thunderbird, and there was a group of people going out trying to prove it exists. I really will say this: if you're going out looking for any cryptid, be it a Bigfoot or a Thunderbird or Mothman, you're not going to find it. It's when you're out there and you're not expecting it. Exactly. That's when it happens.
That's the same thing with ghosts. And that's one reason I don't go on ghost hunts anymore, because usually in my day-to-day life I tend to have more experiences than if I go on a ghost hunt somewhere. So it just seemed like a waste of time. I had one friend that was a ghost hunter, and he said, "You want to come with me on a ghost hunt? Prepare to be very bored because not much happens. People do gather things in their pictures, and a lot of times they get, the recordings or the EVPs. But as far as usually it's just walking around some old prison somewhere, all night long, and then that's about it. And then you go home about daylight, and you don't really see. I mean, some people might be touched, but I found that true. I found that you experience these things when you're not looking for them.
Oh, that's what happened to me. A couple years ago, me and my one son went to a cemetery a couple miles from where I live, and it goes back to about 1860-something. And we were sitting there, and I thought it was no houses next to it because it was all woods. So to the right, to the left of it, it was no houses. And then I assumed behind the cemetery it was all woods. I didn't, see any houses. We were walking around, and I had my recorder on. And, I was recording, and I went by the oldest graves, and I would, try to, talk to whoever the name on the gravestone was. And, we go back home, and I start playing it, and all of a sudden I heard these little kids sound like they were playing and calling names and all that stuff. And I was so excited that the next day we went back again, and I started doing the same thing again. And then I just happened to notice, just through some of the trees and bushes, there was a house with a backyard, and there was a swing set. Duh! Oh. There was my recording of whatever I thought I picked up.
Yeah, you have to do that. I get those pictures all the time. In a window, they see a person standing in a window. And I usually tell them you have to go back during the daylight. It could be an ironing board with the clothing on it, or it could be the curtains, the way the curtains are. It could be any number of things. So, yeah, you have to go back and check, that's for sure.
I had a lady one time, it was really funny, sent me a picture, you're talking about the window, and this was in her back door. It had a window in it, and she had a camera, a digital camera with a flash, and she sent me a picture, and she says, "Look, I see this entity right here. Look at it." And, she drew circles in it and all that stuff and sent it, emailed it to me, and I'm looking at it. And then I went and looked at her Facebook profile, and then I realized, that was her. Okay, but it was distorted.
It was a reflection.
Yeah, it was distorted because of the flash, and she so wanted to believe it was something there, she couldn't comprehend. It was her face.
Did you tell her?
I did, and then
I normally say, usually they'll circle it, and it could be that pareidolia, I think that's how you pronounce it, where you see images in clouds. You'll see a dog or an angel, or, when you see leaves, reflected in a window. Sometimes they will look exactly like a person's face. I mean, it look like a man with a beard or something. I usually say, "Nice catch," and that's about all I say. Because, don't want to insult anybody, but, yeah, I scrutinize these pictures. They have to be pretty amazing for me to really take them too seriously.
Yeah, unfortunately, I probably get about 100 a week. And I do look them over, and a lot of it, again, I've been in photography all my life. I took a 10-year break in broadcasting from 1999, for 10 years. And I managed 3 professional camera stores. I was one of the very first persons to get a professional digital camera, the professional type camera from Nikon to experiment with. And it was a 0.5 megapixel. It was so awesome. But they had sensors in them, which would get dirty. And one thing also, I took a course on camera repair because of the job I had. So I was always cleaning the sensors on these cameras. A lot of people don't realize, they go outside, right? And they got dust